configuration. Not my favorite track, but this one is, well, whatever. It's all right. So, if you've been watching the videos, you know I'm fooling around with the settings, the setups. The iRacing setup for this one is actually pretty decent. This one, for those of you out there who've been following my stuff, um, this one, my setup, I find it faster, but it does make the car a little bit more twitchy. The iRacing setup is actually, I found, makes the car a little bit more compliant. But again, your own personal driving style, my personal driving style, I found this setup to knock a couple of tenths off my lap time. So anyway, that's up to you. And if you're new to the trophy series with the setups being adjustable, again, I don't always say it, but the iRacing setups are almost always pretty decent. There's a couple of tracks where I think it's a little ways off, but most of the time it's pretty competitive anyway. But if you want a little extra, this might help you out. So a lot of curbs on this track you're going to use. So the ride height is not as low as it goes, minus 15 mils there. Just one click up on the compression. Brake bias, again, that's an individual thing, but this track, there's some pretty hard braking zones. So if you're locking them up, just increase that brake bias pressure, and it will help prevent those lockups. Springs, front and rear, are as soft as they go. Camber, again, if you know this channel, I fool around with the camber, so the right hand side camber is decreased just to keep the tire temp and the tire wear a little more even. Toe in is increased. So this track, I find the turn in is pretty hard, is not good. A lot of understeer. I've tried to reduce it as much as possible, but I still find it a little bit more understeery than I would like. But I couldn't find a way around it. You can try increasing the ARB to 20 mils, but I find that makes the car pretty darn loose in the rear, especially on cold tires. Or you could try and stiffen up the rear springs. That will give you more oversteer, but again, I just found the grip dropped off a little bit too much. So the toe in is really turned up here. In the rear, the toe in is turned up as well a fair bit. That helps you with your braking as well. So I got the turn in and understeer as reduced as I can, and that's what I'm using. So in the rear, again, ride height is lowered, but not real low. And compared to the iRacing setup, I think the iRacing setup is at 0. So I do have it at 15, just to give the car some more rotation. The compression in the rear is the same, 13 liters. That probably will get you to the end, but you may want to try 14 liters. And gear stack is tall. Unfortunately, tall is not very. It's not my favorite. It wouldn't be my first pick, except for the fact you need that for the big long straight. Standard through the corners is a lot better, but in that big straight, you will die from people drafting on you. So you have to use tall. Unfortunately, it's a little awkward through some of these corners. So that's the setup. So track is 19 degrees, so that's obviously going to be about as grippy as it gets. 35% usage, so maybe not the best, but there you have it. So we'll get on track, go in slow-mo, and then run it out at full speed. So coming into turn 1, looking for just before the 200 board. In my view, in real time, it looks like I'm braking maybe a car length in front of the 2 board, but in slow-mo here, it's a little bit more before that. Fourth gear, obviously, heavy on the brakes. If you're drafting off someone, you may want to brake even earlier because you're going to be carrying a lot more speed. So it's pretty heavy braking zone. And this is again where it's kind of awkward. I leave it in second gear. You could almost argue for first gear, but second gear I find is faster. And it's important to brake hard and early to to really slow the car down for this corner. It's very wide, the track here, so it's deceptive. If you go out deep into the track here, yes, you will carry more speed on entry, but you will lose a lot of speed on exit, which is happens on a lot of the corners on this track, because there's usually a good straight after a corner on this track. So you really want to get it up tight against these curbs and then get on the power as early as possible. You want to see green on your delta on exit, because that in the long run is going to make you faster. And then just keeping a somewhat tight line, running it out mid-track, and then just trying to minimize the wheel input, try not to scrub too much speed. So coming into this next one, a little late on there. So again, this is a pretty tricky one. So just lifting, just dabbing the brakes. I'm kind of looking for this Michelin man here, or you can use the curb, the yellow and green curb, as a marker. So a few car lengths in front of that, you want to just start slowing the car a bit. It's not heavy braking, just a bit of brakes, third gear, and it's really important to get the car slowed. If you come in here too hot, you are going to run wide and scrub a lot of speed, and you want to get onto these curbs. So again, that's where the ride height comes in. It really softens those curbs up so they're less disruptive, and you can use all of this green stuff on exit. You don't get an X. I'm not sure even where you get an X if you do for that. And just make sure you're back on track before the grass. And then you are looking for the light patch here. And again, it's pretty hard braking zone. Down into second gear, and again, this is one of those awkward corners. You could almost be in first gear, but second gear is probably better. And again, making use of these curbs. I come here, I think, a little wide. Could have been a little tighter there, but picking up the throttle as early as possible. Now, you want to pick up the throttle, of course, as early as possible, but you do not want to push wide. You do not want to be over here on exit. You want to be mid-track, probably at the most. Get yourself so you can turn to the right very quickly. It's a quick crossover from a left turn to a right turn, and you want to get up onto these curbs, but you do not want to get over these curbs. If you get over these curbs, that is a lot of trouble. And again, just picking up the throttle, but again, you have to watch out that you're not going to run too wide. If you're carrying too much speed, you're going to run wide. And this is a really tricky section because the track is turning to the right while your car is pushing to the left. And if your tire gets onto this grass, you are going to have a bad day. So get onto the curb here, and then just trying to minimize the wheel input. Try and straight line it as much as you can so you're not scrubbing speed, and just try to thread the needle of these curbs and keep that wheel as straight as you can. So this is a nasty one. Basically, you can see the track, the white line here has a little bit of a hump to it. So kind of aiming for the middle of that hump. It's not a great marker if there's a car in front of you. You can use this Marshall box as a reference point, but it's pretty far away. So it's a hard one. It takes some practice and a little bit of feel to know when to brake. But it's hard on the brakes. Big blast of brakes in second gear. You want to slow the car down so you can pick up the throttle as early as possible. Again, you don't want to come in here too hot. That's a big hill you're going to fly off of. And keeping it tight. It's a really late apex here. It's a blind exit, but a couple laps practice and you'll figure out how to unwind the wheel and keep it on track. If you get onto this cement bit, there's no X. You don't necessarily want to be hitting these pylons. Occasionally they will stick to your car, and that's a problem. And then just working up into third gear. Again, trying to straight line it through these little mini corners. So coming up to the next one here, this gets a little tricky. This is about feel, really. You want to lift before this white line. Cold tires, I don't even think you need to brake. You just might want to lift earlier or lift for longer. And then you really want to keep it right up tight against this curb. Get onto the yellow and green stuff, and just modulating the throttle. You don't want to spin up the back end. You don't want to push wide. And picking up the throttle again, getting onto these curbs again. Cold tires, you may have to do a little bit of lifting. I even did a little lift there. Again, you don't want to push wide. To the left here, you want to make sure you're kind of mid-track so you can kind of straight line it through this next one and not have to lift, and making use of these curbs. And then you're in third gear. This is another real tricky one. So you're coming uphill right now. You can use these tires as a marker, but what you're looking for is to brake just before the ridge crests. So you want to be braking just as you're still going slightly uphill. That's going to help really slow the car down. If you're braking now, after you've crested that hill, and if you're better on the brakes than I am, maybe you'll be able to slow the car down, but I cannot get the car slowed down once I'm on top of the hill. I'm going to run wide, so it's important to brake while you're on that uphill slope just at the end of it. Second gear, it's a real hard braking zone. Again, there's a lot of track here. It looks like you can go in deeper, but if you go in deeper, you will come out slower. And again, just getting up against these curbs here pretty tight, and then just trying to pick up the throttle as early as possible. Again, you don't want to push too far wide. You don't want to get on the throttle too early, because if you're here when the next corner comes up, you're going to be going real slow. And then just getting onto the curbs here again, trying to straight line it as much as possible, cut that corner, and then just picking up the throttle and letting the car run out wide. Up into third, and it's important to get the car turned in and going in the right direction before the corner comes. So I'm looking for the white part of the curb here is where I'm going to lift a little, and then once get onto these curbs here, and once you're on the curbs and coming downhill, just a dab of brake just to load up the front end, and just to get that front end to keep you from understeering, and then picking up the throttle. It's important to pick up the throttle here, because if you don't, your back end is going to want to step out. You will see lots of people wiping out through this corner. So make sure you have a little bit of throttle on as you come down that hill and make the last corner, hog corner or something like that. And then just trying to cut the corner as much as possible, keep that wheel as straight as possible so you're not scrubbing speed. And it's a long stretch to the finish line here, so if the guy in front of you screwed up that last corner, you can definitely do an overtake here to the finish line, so especially with the draft. So don't lose hope. There's always a chance you could gain a spot. So yeah, 128.6, pretty decent. Definitely, if you can get into the low 29s, you'll probably be pretty competitive. But yeah, 128s. That's something to shoot for. I got a 128.3 as an optimal, so I did leave some time on the table. So last race of the season 4. So good luck out there. We'll see you on track. See you next season.